Space is several things: beautiful, huge, scary, and unusual. But all of those things are what makes space so fascinating as well. The 5 objects we're going to explore in this video are in no particular order. Nevertheless, when I first found out about each of them, they forever changed the way I looked at space. I hope you feel the same by the end. Number 5. J1407b. J1407b is a possible exoplanet which orbits a young star 434 light-years away from Earth. J1407b has an absolutely spectacular ring system. In fact, it absolutely dominates the rings of Saturn, over 200 times larger. If we took J1407b's rings and put them around Earth, they would extend over halfway to the Sun. For this reason, J1407b has also quite rightly been called Saturn on steroids. Now you might be thinking, how in the world did they know this? It's actually quite simple. The way most exoplanets are discovered is by watching a star and watching for slight dips in its brightness as a potential exoplanet crosses in front of it as it orbits the star. The brightness of a star is then plotted with respect to time, and that creates a light curve. This light curve can be used to learn about the properties of an exoplanet, such as orbital period and radius. In this case, though, astronomers noticed the shape of the host star's light curve was unusual and suggested the presence of an exoplanet with a massive ring system. Furthermore, researchers noticed that the light curve pattern suggested the existence of a large gap in this ring, where a moon could theoretically exist. Number 4. Kepler-1625b. Kepler-1625b is a very large planet which orbits a sun-like star located about 8,000 light-years away. It was discovered in mid-2016 by the Kepler Space Telescope when it observed light dimming of the host star from transits. Among the data, however, researchers noticed an anomaly that would suggest the existence of a moon orbiting Kepler-1625b, named Kepler-1625b1. This was further corroborated by observations from the Hubble Space Telescope in 2018. Kepler-1625b is among the most massive possible planets, having a mass of up to 12 times that of Jupiter. Any more massive than that, and is considered a brown dwarf. Kepler-1625b1, though, is estimated to be the size of Neptune. This is obviously much bigger than any moon in our solar system, with the biggest being Ganymede, a moon of Jupiter. If the existence of this moon is confirmed, this would be the first exomoon ever discovered. Also, consider this. Neptune in our solar system hosts 14 moons. Therefore, it is actually possible that Kepler-1625b1 itself has a moon. This is called a subsatellite or a moon-moon. Number 3. Iapetus. Iapetus is the third largest moon orbiting Saturn and is mostly composed of ice. There are some major peculiarities with its orbit around Saturn, though, in that its orbit is very highly inclined for how big the moon is. The only other moons of Saturn that have such high orbits are the irregular smaller moons. To explain this, it has been proposed that Saturn had an encounter with another gas planet in the distant past, but this is debated. What has stunned astronomers about Iapetus, however, is this very long equatorial ridge that runs around 3/4 of the moon. It is the third tallest mountain structure in the solar system, and nobody knows where it came from. What is clear is that this ridge has been there for a very long time, given that it is heavily cratered, but it is unclear how and why it formed, especially because of how precisely it follows the equator of Iapetus. Here are 3 of the most popular theories that attempt to explain this ridge. The first of which is that the ridge is what remains of the young form of Iapetus that was oblate and spun much faster than it does now. The second is that this ridge is nothing more than ice buildup underneath the surface. And the third is that young Iapetus hosted a ring system that collapsed into the surface. The issue with these and the rest of the theories, though, is that they do not explain one other thing. that this ridge only covers the dark region, Cassini ratio. Number 2. Gliese 667cc. If you're even slightly familiar with the Star Wars franchise, you'll know that the planet Tatooine has 2 suns. What if I told you, though, that a planet like Tatooine does exist 24 light-years away, but it orbits 3 suns and might be habitable? This is Gliese 667cc, a super-Earth rocky exoplanet orbiting the small red dwarf star Gliese 667c, which itself orbits 2 stars which orbit each other, Gliese 667a and Gliese 667b. This is called a trinary star system, and this is relatively rare. We usually see binary star systems consisting of only 2 stars. As mentioned before, Gliese 667cc is a super-Earth rocky planet. This means that its mass is greater than Earth's, but less than Neptune's. Given its characteristics and its orbit, researchers have determined that Gliese 667cc orbits within the warmer side of the habitable zone. This is what the sky looks like from the surface of Gliese 667cc. Like most exoplanets we know of, Gliese 667cc is probably tidally locked, meaning that only one side of the planet ever gets to see starlight, and the other side is in constant darkness and cold. Both of these sides individually are probably hostile to life. But there is a region between the bright and dark side called the terminator line or the twilight zone. This line runs around the entire planet. If any type of life exists on Gliese 667cc, this is where it would be. The final, but definitely not least object we'll explore in this video is Epsilon Aurigae, located around 1,000 light-years away. In 1821, German astronomer Johann Heinrich Fritsch observed Epsilon Aurigae and noticed it was changing brightness over the course of a year. He thought it was a variable star, which is a star that predictably changes brightness over a period of time. However, further investigation by German astronomer Hans Ludendorff revealed this to be an eclipsing binary, where a star's light is partially blocked by its counterpart when it passes in front. We know that this happens to Epsilon Aurigae every 27 years. The last time this occurred was from 2009 to 2011. Observations suggest that the companion of Epsilon Aurigae is surrounded by some sort of dust disk, but nobody knows what this disk is orbiting. The most popular theory is that the disk is orbiting a star. If you made it this far, thanks for watching the video, and I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like to see more of the StellarHesk channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos.